So here's what we're going to do, guys. We are going to take our prompt for our Document Your Faith project. We're going to take scrap materials, scrap fabric, maybe some scrap ribbon. These are ribbons that I took off of packages and such that I saved. And we have, I have regular old Elmer's glue, although fabric glue would be better. I didn't have a chance to search for it, but Elmer's is fine. I've got a stapler and I got a pair of scissors. So that's it. That's all I got. So we are going to create a page to document our faith based on a particular verse in the Bible that we all know, but it is the verse in Joshua 1:7 where it says, "Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all that the law of Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go." Basically, stay the course, be strong and courageous. And we're going to do a page now based on that verse using this fun stuff. Yay! I'm going to switch my camera around so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, see this big mess right here? Here we go. This is my base page. It's just half of a sheet of cardstock. And the reason this is the page, this is the size that I choose, is because this is what I'm using for my Document Your Faith. And it's just the planner for 2022. And I have, and I just tip in the pages in my planner. And so half sheet just happens to work nicely. So that's where I start with my, my page, okay? And so today, wherever you do yours, whether it's in your planner, whether it's just on a piece of paper, whatever it is, then you can use whatever size that you want. All right, the fabric that I have used is literally scrap fabric. And so I just pulled these out, okay? Now and I didn't even bother ironing them or anything, because this is for me, this is kind of a, have you ever heard of a smash book? It's kind of like a smash book for me, in that my book is very much super messy and I'm cool with that, okay? All right, so I figured what I would do is I'm going to make a project. You can do a couple of things. You can actually cover your entire page with fabric and start with that as a base. You can cut it out in little shapes and just glue it on there. It kind of adds a little texture. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make little flaps to kind of make hidden journaling. So I'm going to cut out a piece, and then I'm going to take this, and since this is already stitched, I'm going to cheat and put that here, okay, on this side. I'm just kind of thinking through this. And then I probably will get I have all this ribbon. Like I said, I have a bunch of just ribbon. This one's kind of cool. And it kind of matches, sort of. There's a pink here, and I'll probably will put some ribbon here too, just to add a little texture. And then on the inside, I'll have all this space for journaling. And my thought was to use my journal card from the February 2022 kit, and it says, "Be strong and courageous," and just put that here and then journal around it. And then I can also journal on the other side. You know what I do a lot of times, guys? This is something that I did, especially when my kids were little. Whenever they outgrew things, and let's say that they were not really good enough to hand down to other people, like they had rips in them, or maybe the kids wore them out or whatever, I would save them, especially if it was something that meant to me. I would save the material, and I would use the material for mixed media projects like this. So like their shirt and their, whatever. So that is something that I have a lot of scraps from that. Things that meant a lot to me, sometimes I would repurpose in that way. So just kind of an idea. And I have those squares that you get at the fabric place. You can go to any fabric place and you can get those little quilt squares, and they're usually coordinating colors, and it's really cool because you can get a whole bunch of coordinating colors. Matter of fact, that might be what these started as. And then you can just use them in your craft projects. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my fabric. Now, you could totally actually use your sewing machine and sew onto paper. I've done that lots of times. You can do needle and thread and stitch it by hand. That's one way to do it as well. But I'm just going to do kind of like a paper piercing, but I'm just going to do it for anybody, whether you have you don't even have to have a needle for this. So let me go ahead and cut a little bit of this fabric. And as you probably can see from my fabric, mine is messy on the edges. And I am totally okay with that. But if you want it to be neater, then certainly that's a possibility too. So I very rarely throw scraps of anything away, hence the reason I'm doing this project. Okay, so there's my bottom. Now, how am I going to put this on? I'm so glad that y'all asked. I could actually make this the base for the whole thing and just glue it on the page and make it the base. I'm going to choose to only adhese it by one side, so that way I can actually use it as a flap. But what I'm going to do to adhese that side is I'm just going to glue it first. And then I'm probably going to staple everything down once I glue it. So I just have Elmer's. Again, fabric glue would be better, but you just use what you got, right? So let's just take a little bit here. Okay, and I'm just going to stick that down here. Just like so. Now, regular Elmer's glue doesn't work great on fabric, like long term, but it'll be good to hold it down temporarily. So I'm just taking a little bit of glue and put it on my side here. Why is our prop fabric? I'm so glad that you asked. This is the reason. This is what I would normally be doing if I wasn't talking to y'all. I'm thinking through the fact that fabric is stronger than paper, right? So paper I can easily rip. Fabric, I could rip it if I really wanted to, but it's stronger. And for me, this represents this, it represents this command of God's to be strong and courageous. Now, as we know, and everyone, let's say it together, do we have this strength in and of ourselves? Can we dig deep enough to be strong and courageous in and of ourselves? So our strength comes from Christ in us, right? So as we are remembering these truths, that's one of the important things to remember. All right, so let me take the second piece of fabric and I'm going to sort of just lay it on top. And let me cut it off. All right, so let's go ahead and just glue this down. Okay, so what I have here is I have my fabric on the top. I have a flap here and I have a flap here. So I have a couple of flaps. All right, so now I have this ribbon and I have to decide what to do with it. Am I going to do anything with this ribbon? All right, let's do this. Let's take some of the pink, the blue. I like this ribbon. It's kind of cool. I'm going to put it here. And then what I'm going to do, because ribbon, when you actually glue ribbon, you can see the glue through it, which is not that big of a deal. But what I'm going to do instead of actually gluing it on the front is I'm going to glue it to the back. Now I could glue the whole thing here, but I kind of like that little stitched edge. So I'm going to put it here in the middle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this around this way. And I'm going to glue my ribbon on the back of this fabric. Does that make sense? What I see is when I finish this page and when I go back and look at it in the future, I'm reminded that I use fabric to remind myself of the command to be strong and courageous. And so it becomes a visual tool for me. And then I go back and I think about Joshua and how he was courageous in his calling and was rewarded in that. And I'm reminded about the other men that we've been talking about. All right, so I have that down there. And so it just adds a little bit of texture here. And you could actually put something underneath here too. Now, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to take a stapler and I'm going to I like staples because staples are kind of, again, they add a little bit more texture. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to take this whole thing. I'm not going to staple all the way through all the layers because then I won't have the flaps. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to staple this down here. And I'm going to staple it on this side. Okay. And then I'm probably going to go ahead and do me a couple little staples here just to keep this fabric down. And this is just a regular, super cheap stapler. Okay. So now I have this ribbon. It's kind of fun. I have this fabric here, and then I have more fabric underneath here, and then I have all this room here. So here's my journal card. Okay. So what I want to do here is I'm going to, at the end of all of my flaps, I'm going to have this as a reminder here. Now I could glue it all down, but I can even add more space by making this a tip in itself. Or, oh, maybe I can make it go out this way. That'd be kind of cool. Let's do that. Let me show you how to make a tip in here. Most of you probably already know how to make tip ins because I do it a lot. So here's some washi tape. And I'm going to use it to tip in this card. And all that means when I say tip in, all that means is I'm going to just adhere it to one side so it will open up. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. I'm just going to stick it down. The really cool thing about washi tape is it comes up really easy too. Okay. Now, if I open it, you don't want it to go off the edge when you're tipping something in, like I just did, because then it doesn't open well. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it and I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. It tears super easy too, washi tape. Some people cut it. I always laugh at the YouTube videos where they cut their washi tape because I don't have the patience for that. Okay, so now I have this card in here and I've got extra room even now to document. So I could do the same thing with this part. I could put another card in here if I wanted to, right? But basically, this is how I've used fabric. And I'm going to remind myself to be strong and courageous because the strength of this fabric is more than the strength of the paper.